Appreciate everybody joining. Thank you for joining on a late Wednesday afternoon after a long day here. Apologize for my voice. I've got a little bit of a tickle in it, but hopefully you guys can bear with me as we go through this presentation. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Doug McWilliams. I'm a director within our data engineering and analytics practice here at West Monroe, and I'm also a Databricks MVP. I'm excited today to have the opportunity to talk to you about what we see happening with LLMs, Gen AI, and how that's really disrupting how we work with our data engineering capacity and how we're affecting change with our clients. Excited to talk through this a little bit with you today, as well as show you a demo of a Databricks app that we've built. So, to get started, to guide us today, we've got a few slides. Want to start first with the reality of data engineering, what are teams facing today. Move next and try to distill a little bit down what are the superpowers of an LLM, how do we see those applying, what are those three things that are the key features and key capabilities. Next, I want to think about how does this change how we work today? What are the numbers, what's the impact to our efficiency and our productivity, and how does this change how you should be thinking about your teams? Then we'll spend some time, have about a 6 or 7 minute demo that we'll go through, and we'll actually see the app and we'll go through the exercise of building a data model and the ETL. Then we'll take a step back after that, want to reframe the situation for you and your situation and what you're thinking about with your company. How does this change the strategy? And then finally want to round this out with some ideas for how you get started and how you can implement this for yourself. So first, let's set the stage here a little bit. Businesses have always demanded speed. Engineering has always always needed requirements. And so that's always delayed things on what can be done with data engineering. And the reality is that customers, clients that can manage this, bridge this gap, and find that value versus cost are going to succeed. So when we talk to clients, we talk to data engineering teams, some of the reasons that they're not successful, some of the things that are barriers for them are things like tech debt. A lot of times there's staff turnover, and the people who actually built the things are no longer there, and so they're afraid to even start. Next, there's the speed tax, meaning, hey, I like the idea, but I've got to go to 8 different departments and get this all approved before we can get started. So there's a bit of a consensus building challenge. Next is the missed moment, meaning, hey, by the time I've actually done all this work, by the time I've actually understood and generated all the requirements and started to build things, the opportunity that was there for the business has actually shifted and changed, and actually what we're working on likely has to get put to the back burner. And then finally, the simple request challenge, which is the, hey, I just need a financial report, but the reality is that nothing has been built underneath it, and so the actual build that report to actually get those simple insights, you're looking at many months of work. So these are things that we see clients often facing. So let's shift and now talk about LLMs and what that means for you. There's 3 ways that which we see LLMs providing a superpower. The first one is this idea around universal code migration. So this is the translation of code beyond technical boundaries, beyond technical clouds even, and the ability to get that reformatted in a say, a Spark SQL format. Second is the ability to build data models. If there's one thing that I've seen is if you ask 4 people to build a data model, you're likely to get 4 different data models. Hopefully a few of them are useful. Gen AI is a great way to get started with LLMs and building a data model that's custom fit for your business and can also flex when your business shifts. Finally is the intelligent documentation. So if we think about the staff turnover where there's no documentation and no comments, LLMs are incredibly powerful at looking at code and distilling that and translating that into human readable, understandable information that can be used for even non-technical people. So with these kind of as superpowers, that's how we want to apply this in our data engineering. The reality is when we've implemented this, and apologize, we found that the impact with time is incredible. So things like a code migration project, things like translating code, which something that used to take months, now maybe take a few weeks or a few days. Next, if we think about data model development, this typically requires many iterations with the business, many offline activities. What this used to take maybe weeks or months is now taking an afternoon. And finally, as we think about documentation, this is a simple application of LLMs. It can scan your documentation, scan your code, and then generate that documentation. This can be something that's generated in under an hour. So pretty incredible productivity gains this really changes how we think about working with our clients. And so instead of thinking about each one of these things being something we're focused on for many days at a time, we're now looking at doing all three of these in an afternoon or in a day. So it's a shift in how we think, it's a shift in how we work with our clients. Sorry, one more thing. The other thing about this, besides just the massive productivity impact, is the quality. We'll find that actually the output of the LLMs will give you a better quality and better consistency than you would with humans in the loop. So we'll look at that here. All right, so to set the stage for this demonstration, we are going to be looking at this as a Databricks app. This is something that's sitting on top of a data lake. We've already ingested the data into this data lake. We have other accelerators that help get this. So we've already got, imagine, the bronze and the silver layer, and we're going to be focusing on the translation of the silver to the gold. And now imagine your business is coming to you and say, hey, great, I really need these insights, and we need you to drop everything you've got. This is an urgent rush. I need you to create a model. I need you to create ETL. I need you to go highlight that. Here's the KPIs I want. Do whatever you need to do, but I need it to go get built now. Now, typically, this whole thing would probably take months of time, and what we're going to show you here is that this can be done in just a few minutes. So this is what we're calling an AI-powered modern data platform. So to get started here, we'll be looking at our app here. We affectionately know this as Hopper. You can see the purple frog here at the top. There's a process we'll follow here, a step-by-step. And to get started here, we'll look at building a new model, and we'll call it a test model. Understand that we have options and configurations of how we output this. We'll, there's several of the major common players here. We'll select Databricks as the target language, and we'll also have the option to figure out the naming convention format. We'll pick snake case here. Next, we want to set the context for the LLM. So we're going to import all of our information about what metrics are we building, what is the business asking. We'll add in our schema definition, and those will populate in these two gray boxes on the bottom. Understand that we could actually also have a digital conversation with our business. We could digitize that, take the transcription, and add it in here too. So a lot of ability here to take free-form text, free-form documentation, plug it in, and really get the full picture. So you can see as we look through the table definitions, we have a lot of different tables that define our table names of the source systems, and also the column names and the data types. So with that, we'll save the settings here, and we'll move on to the next step, which is to generate the model. You can see we've progressed on our little frog hopper along the top. So we'll click a generate model, and what this will do is we're going to be following a Kimball-style facts and dimensions, and a mermaid diagram pops up here. So at the top, you can see we have our fact, which is the basis for all of our transactions. And then down below, you'll see the additional supporting dimensions. So we have dim product, we have dim customer, we have dim salesperson and dim date, and a couple other dimensions here too. And so at a table level, we have a good idea of how our facts are related to our dimensions. We have our foreign key, our primary keys identified, and you can see that this all generally supports a star schema model of how we would want to have our data situated for this reporting. Now, as we think about this, we may realize that, hey, I've actually missed a table here, and I actually want to actually add in discounts. So let's say I want to interact with this. This is the human in the loop part. I can now say, hey, how about we add a discounts table, because that's going to be important to my model. So we'll take a minute here, and we'll type in the feedback to add this discount table. We'll submit this feedback back into the model, and it will regenerate this star schema at the top. And you can see now, if you zoom in on the right-hand side, you can see that that dim discount is now visible. So at a table level, we've got kind of the full picture. We've got everything we want, which is great. And we can even see we've got our primary key, and you can even see that it's a slowly changing dimension because it's got its start date, it's got its end date, and we're good to go. So let's save this, and let's move on to the next step. So now that we have this model, again, following that idea that we have the human in the loop, we're now able to click through, and all of our tables that we defined on the prior page are now available at the top. We can click through these different tables, and we can augment or change some of the naming convention. We can even change the data types and the primary key and the definition of what was the description on this. For instance, you probably wouldn't do this, but let's change this integer to a string and save that. You could modify the description here. What's great is the LLM has actually already drafted all these descriptions, which is a great key for another step later. We've saved these off. These are all in our entity relationship diagram now and all updated. So great, we've had our human in the loop, we've had their review sessions, and we're pretty much good to go. So let's go down and we'll save this off and we'll go to the next step. So now that we have our target model, we're going to look at generating our source to target mapping, which is really our blueprint for our ETL pipelines. So we'll ask the LLM to go generate the source to target mapping, and after a little bit of time, we'll see a similar picture. Again, we're able to click through those different tables that are defined at the top. You can see that you have you can see exactly where your source tables and source columns are all coming from. You can see the different transformations. Largely, this is a direct mapping for this situation. And you can see in this first row, we've actually matched and followed the naming convention. So we're shifting to a snake case here on the right, and on the left-hand side, we have more of a camel case. So you can see that our input and our guide is making sense and being applied. And then as you can look down, we've added our dim discount into this, and you can see that for this last row, we have our unit price. We've actually included, we've included our calculation for this, which is the unit price minus the unit price discount. So great, our transformations are all looking right. We can click through the other tables, check that out, modify it. Down below, we have our full source to target mapping across all of our tables. This all looks good. Let's move on. Let's get to the last step here. So let's save this, and let's move on to the DDL and the DML definition. So these are the actual technical scripts and assets that will define our tables and will be the code that's ran in our ETL pipelines. So at the top here, you can see our create statement for our fact table, which is great. You can see the green text. Again, this green text is the descriptors. This is an amazing thing. A lot of times people don't have this in their tables. This green text and this descriptions is actually a great foundation for people who want to use Genie. So a lot of ways that Genie works better is to have these descriptors. Having it already baked in is a little bit of a superpower. So now we've got our create statements. We've got our income insert statements. These are the artifacts we can now plug into a Databricks workflow. And you can imagine we can take this pretty quickly and get an ETL process, and we can hydrate that model. We can start to look at this with AI BI, and you can see exactly all the different code that's being ran here as well. So you can obviously work and interface with it at this point. If you want to see or tweak some changes, you can save those edits. So again, following this idea of preparing, guiding, and allowing for feedback is the approach that we like to take. Moving on to the next page and the last page, now we have all of our artifacts. So we've got our requirements, we've got our schema, we've got our source to target mapping, we've got our data dictionary, we've got our any relationship diagram, and we have our DDL and DML statement. So that's all created for you in the back end. And in just a few minutes, we've gone from what do I want to build to here's the actual output. So this really changes how we work with clients, in that we are now use this approach to start in the morning, talk with our business. What do you want to have with your data model? What do you want to have with your ETL? We're able to then go back, build these artifacts, build our data model, actually run this in Databricks, hydrate that model, and build an AI BI dashboard on it. And the next morning, we come back and work with the business and say, here's what we see. Here's where your data is good. Here's where this calculation didn't work. How would you actually work with these situations? Take that as additional feedback, actually modify it, go back that afternoon, recreate those models, and then Wednesday morning we're coming in, and by the time you get to the end of the week, your business is so bought in because now they got everything they want, it works, and they've really there's a certain amount of trust that you've even built with understanding what the data does. So we think that this is a new revolution for onshoring the approach that we just talked about. The ability to work with this productivity speed, the collaboration between the business and tech, the expertise that's brought in from the client, from the industry, from the Databricks side. This outweighs maybe an option that people are typically looking at, which is a low-cost offshoring model. So what this does is it really builds trust with the business, it sets things up for success, and you get to see tangible things in under a week. And really this is a new world in that this can create an absolute new competitive reality of how businesses can be innovative, can have an idea, and actually go not only test drive it, but see a working solution in just a few days. So really powerful stuff. So with that as the kind of the demo and the kind of the change in how we look, it's not all just a technical piece of magic here that does this. Understand that there's some realities from our experience of implementing this. First and foremost, the IT world cannot do this in isolation. We need to have engagement with the business. You need to have the experts in the room. You've got to have a collaborative environment where this can happen. If you don't have it, you're likely not going to work, or you're going to create something that's divergent from the business. Second is this speed is such a difference. So we worked with a client, and what they told us was in 2 days, we did so much work in 2 days, that's what it would have taken their team 2 months. And so this changes kind of the challenge. It's no longer how can the IT team keep up with business, it's hey, how do we stay connected with the business? How do we communicate these changes out to all the different departments? How do we make sure this is governed properly and people are all brought along for that journey? So the change requires almost less tech now, more people, and more thoughtfulness about the process and the rolling of this out. And then kind of to try to wrap this up, this shift has really started. You can probably see a lot of things from this conference about GenAI and how it's included everywhere. You get the idea of all these ingredients coming together. We think this is the new way of doing our data engineering work with our clients. And this AI-powered data platform approach really opens doors for maybe clients who are maybe considering themselves either too small and they couldn't make the investment, they couldn't get going, they couldn't build something that's as complete and comprehensive, or with companies that are much larger, the ability to customize and really work with specific departments and really build the bespoke models that they need. It really opens the door to be able to customize and really work together with the business. Now this implementation really is working well with something like a modern data platform like Databricks. To get started for yourself, would encourage you to think about what are the use cases? What are my high impact places of what my business needs to know to get going? Start building your internal champions. This isn't just a tech thing. This is also going to be within your departments, within your business, and the people that are going to be working along with this team. And then the reality is, this is a competitive advantage for you. People who get started on this today and have this adoption are going to have an advantage of knowing themselves, knowing the business, being able to have data that allows them to navigate all the uncertainties in what's happening today. And those that don't are going to be left behind, and the gap is going to be wide. So the call to action for this group is get started today. Get Databricks going, start implementing this. Feel free, we would love to talk to you about a GenAI-powered accelerator in building this data platform. We've done this at several clients and have found it to be immensely powerful. So would love to share and help in your journey. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time today. Appreciate the attention. My name is Doug McWilliams. I have a LinkedIn logo here, a QR code if you'd like to scan it, connect later. Please reach out. And also a big thank you to many of the West Monroe people that are in the audience here as well. This would not be possible without really smart people that are across our practices to bring and deliver this to you today. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of your show.